I'm Azariah Draper.
I'm Maria Liz Vaughn.
Jackson Kaplan.
I'm Caleb Diaz.
I'm Martin Longwood.
I'm Martin Lewis.
I'm Journey Autry.
And I'm Kaylee Gonzalez in Work Group A, and this is what we thought of our first listen. So when I first listened to it, I felt very calm and peaceful. I think the church setting, me growing up Catholic, that was just a calm environment to begin with. The music was very steady, and I think that also gave a sense of comfort and security throughout the whole thing. It was very smooth, and then once it got to the choir part and the actual chorus and stuff, it was very angelic, which I think also tied into the church vibe and stuff. I would say definitely something that stood out to me was the pitch and the melody. So initially the upper instruments, they played the notes that flowed up and down in the smooth repeating waves, which is what I was talking about in the beginning, and that's what made the music feel light and continuous for me at least. And yeah,
I thought the same thing, honestly. I also felt the peace and the calming of the instruments. I also thought the clarinet really played a good role in keeping it calm and steady throughout the whole piece.
Yeah, I thought it was the song overall, the piece. It felt very eerie, and I could just close my eyes and let the music carry me. I didn't feel emotional in a sad way, an excited way. It was very neutral for me. The melody all blended together. It was the soft dynamics, and it just blended very well.
Yeah, it made me feel kind of peaceful because of the combination of the piano and the choir, and the steadiness of the oboe, the clarinet. It was very very smooth, and it didn't stop, and it was just very calming because of the consistency of it.
It had a very steady rhythm.
Yes.
An oboe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the oboe.
It's an oboe.
What interests me from the piece was the oboe, how he was able to play throughout the whole thing without stopping to breathe.
No breath.
So it reminded me of the circulation breath, I think, technique that's called, where he doesn't have to stop and breathe so that he can keep playing.
Yeah.
So that helped keep the consistency throughout the whole song.
Well, for me, listening to the piece without having any background information, I said that the song felt very peaceful, and it creates a sense of stillness. The song, I feel it feels it could slow down time a little bit. The voices blend together really smoothly, and it makes the choir sound like a single instrument, I guess you could say. I didn't really feel a sense of urgency or tension. There's not really one emotion I could say that the song made me feel, but it was just kind of comforting.
I'll say mine's differs a lot because I actually did not like the piece at first. I don't know, maybe it's because of my background. I grew up Baptist, so that slow-ish gospel is it's not something that I really like. But overall the piece was really nice. It's just not my style, but overall it was okay.
Yeah. I mean, personally, it is my usual music. My usual music is more upbeat. This one is more it's more grounded. It has some more it has a rhythm to it, but it's not a rhythm that makes you want to dance. It's a rhythm that makes you want to sit down and just think or sleep or something. It's very it's classical. It's really it's kind of sleepy in a sense that it's you get the piano and you get the oboe and then you get the and then it kind of it builds up and then it just goes down in patterns of 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds it goes do 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 do, and then it falls. So I think because of that, it has a more kind of more boring feel to it. Kind of it gets you more neutral emotionally. At least I emotionally felt that it was kind of not much of a hype track. It's more of a It's more of a relaxing, like chill track.
Yeah,
You know.
I didn't really get the sleepy part of it, but I thought it was pretty uplifting, and it's almost like it was like a celebration of life a little. I felt like it was very uplifting. I probably wouldn't fall asleep to that.
I want to go off about what you said because I just think like us growing up differently, obviously the song had like different impacts and like different ways that we interpreted it. And I think like after researching it and like looking up why it was made, like whatever, and like seeing that, well, what I got was that it was made to be played in like a church or like a holy setting, and now people use it in weddings and things like that. And like just like I think the reason why I liked it so much was because growing up Catholic and like listening to those types of songs, it obviously will like bring me a sense of calm and stuff. And like I saw like the way that I interpreted it was that he made the piece to like take our minds away from the outside and everyday stress and then leave us with tranquility and peace and calmness. And I feel like that's what I got. So that's what I got from after researching it and stuff.
Yeah, in the effective choir, it's not one individual voice. It's a lot of different voices together, and it's very high, which I think works in its setting because the name of the song is Jesus Vivit Meine Freude by Johann Sebastian Bach. And it was composed for a church, and the choir setting for a church, it's a congregation. I think the intent of it was to make you feel as part of like a collective, you know. And at least for me, it felt like, you know, since there's not one voice singing it, but a whole choir of instruments together with the oboe and with the piano, it kind of like blended together into like an experience where you're not quite yourself, right? It didn't feel individual, you know. It felt kind of blended, and for me at least, that made me feel like more kind of like relaxed and ethereal because it's just not something that's, you know, something individual. It's like many things together. It kind of, you know, overwhelms your brain, but in a sense that it just makes you forget about everything, you know.
Yeah. I think me and Azaria, is that how you say it? We share the same personal bias because I also grew up Baptist. And when you go into a Baptist church, well, for me at least, my church was very like black. So we don't sing like slow songs, like it's all very like dramatic and loud, and there's people falling out everywhere. So this isn't really the type of song you could like fall out to. Like it doesn't give the same effect, and that just made me feel bored. I don't not like the song, but I don't love it.
Yeah, like I said, it's not something that I would play on my playlist. You know, it's something that for the times it's a song with a purpose. You know, it's a song that doesn't have a very contemporary sort of thing to it. And I think I already said it, but it's like kind of boring in a sense. It's kind of like, you know, it's not something that'll get you like moving and dancing. It's more comforting, more security. It has a lot of security.
I kind of agree with what you're saying. Like I can understand why you think it's boring just because the rhythm is pretty like steady and repetitive throughout the entire song. So like obviously since there's no like dramatic changes or like it's all pretty like the same throughout the entire song, obviously you're either gonna feel calm, bored, or tired. So like it's normal that all of us are like kind of saying the same thing. But something that I noticed was like when the song began and it was just the instruments, like before the choir came in, it was kind of like light flowy notes, I felt like, and then once the choir came, it kind of like grounded the song. So it went from like, I don't really know how to explain it, like a floating feeling, and then it was more like grounded and like calm.
Progression of
Whimsical
it.
kind of.
Huh?
Whimsical.
Whimsical, yes. Mystical, magical.
I kind of want to, I kind of want to touch back on what you guys were talking about because, again, like I said, like the first time I listened to it, I didn't really connect to it. But I think after doing the research and like understanding what the lyrics meant, I could connect more to it because that is my faith. I think that instead of making it boring for me, it actually made me like pay attention to like the choices that they were doing without like throughout the piece. So like with them like using the verse in such a like broad manner because like sometimes when you sing it could be like more, your mouth could be more closed, which kind of gives it like a whole different type of vibe. I think that's what like ended up making it seem like kind of heavenly to me, like angelic. I think that's just kind of like what I took from it.
What you said, Kaylee, about like at the start, that's actually what I wrote down on the first 30 seconds. I thought it was pretty soft and like smooth, like at the very start, and I thought like it was very gentle rather than like a hard bass that you hear in like different songs.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like very peaceful and joyful.
I did notice a minute and 25 seconds in that there were a few like higher pitches, higher voices, and for me that moment felt like a small climax, like the emotional peak of the song, and that's one thing that I noticed.
Yeah, I noticed that the oboe was kind of like in sonata form because it had like an A section where it like climbs and then a B section where it like goes from there, but it's kind of like a remix of the A section. It's kind of distorted. So you know it goes like A and B, then back to A and B, and the oboe continues that way sporadically until by the end or at the 3-minute mark where it starts to go into A structure, but then it's like switches back to the B structure and then it fades out. You know.
How does that make you feel?
That made me feel like, you know, it's consistent, but it's also like I recognized it, like repetition. It made me recognize the structure of it, and it made me feel like I knew what was going to happen next. Like it made me feel like I like kind of satisfied in a sense that it's, you know, you can see what comes, you know what's going to happen, so it made me feel like satisfied and satiated with the rhythm of it.
That's actually something that I wrote down. I wrote down that since it like all the musical patterns are so repetitive, they repeat in an organized way, so you know where the music is going and you know what's gonna happen next. That's also something I noticed like at the ending of the song. It wasn't like, it was like peaceful and like how you said, like it was kind of satisfying the way it ended because there's no like sudden or awkward pauses throughout the song, and the ending is not like sudden or awkward at all. Like it's just like the same as the rest of the song. It just slowly like fades out. So that's something that I noticed too.
I agree with you on that, and especially after I researched that it was about finding joy and comfort in Jesus. I was like, okay, no wonder I felt so comfortable.
Mhm.
So like, oh, I know this.
Yeah. I kind of feel like since it was so repetitive, like throughout the song, the instruments are constant, but the choir isn't always singing. And then when they do sing, it lasts like maybe 5-10 seconds. And I just feel like, personally, I just feel like it didn't really add anything. Like I feel like I still would have felt the same without the choir. But I don't know, maybe that's just me.
I feel like almost all of us said that it was pretty like repetitive, like the
Yes, it is.
melody, and I also put that, I said underneath the music, and I had like little like small variations, like differences, but I mean pretty much throughout the whole song I said it was pretty repetitive.
Yeah, and I think the way the choir works in the song is that every 15 minutes or like variably it switches up, you know. So like the oboe is constant and it's kind of like the road, and then the choir is kind of like cars on the road that like every few seconds it like picks up and it like layers onto it, you know. And that made me feel kind of like, well, it's comforting, but also it creates a sense of like dynamics because the voice, it doesn't just go with the melody. The melody is led by the oboe, and the choir kind of follows it, and that made me feel kind of like a 2 layers experience, which is kind of like happy in a sense, because it's like very satiating to very satisfying when it's like you get the oboe, but you also get the choir on top of it. So that made me feel kind of like it could have been the same with or without, you know. And you never know what's going to happen next because it's just not in a predictable pattern, but it also isn't a predictable pattern. So, you know, the choir kind of like adds to the emotional feel of like being at peace because no matter what happens, you still have the same track behind it.
Did you say that it wasn't a predictable pattern?
It wasn't because the choir. I'm saying the oboe was predictable, but the choir was not as predictable as the oboe because you can't really see how they're gonna sing.
I don't know. I don't think I would agree with that just because I feel like the whole song was like even though like all the words were different, I guess, from each of like
Yeah.
the things that they were saying, like it was still pretty much like the same rhythm, the same melody that they were going by. But if that's what you think, then that's good.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else that they want to say?
Let me see.
No.
Okay, I'm just waiting for it to.
I feel like everyone said what I had written down. Growing up, I was on Christianity, like I'm a Christian, like since birth I've been baptized. My opinion on religion definitely changed as I've lived life all the way up until 18. I feel like this song isn't the most choir sounding. Like I know it's a choir, but like if you were to go to a normal church in, let's say, Germany, because that's where Bach's from, right? I'd say the choir is more impactful there. And I don't know if that's the choir's fault, maybe that's just me, but I feel like this choir is a little bit short when it comes to the deeper meaning of Christianity. And in general, I think religion's a very, like, it's a thing you shouldn't take, like, you should take religion seriously if you really do believe in it. Choir's good. I feel like I don't know if it's for all of you guys, but I feel like I couldn't hear the organ at all. I don't know, maybe that's just like my timbre being bad or whatever, but
It's very soft.
I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, it was very soft.
It was like very muffled.
the oboe is very significant, like you can
Yes.
hear it like very clearly,
Let's
and
talk
like
about the oboe.
the choir mixing in with the oboe,
Did you also?
but I don't know, I couldn't hear the organ at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like someone playing piano, but I couldn't like hear it either.
Right.
The organ.
Yeah, it's the organ.
Same thing.
Well,
Maybe it's just
after listening to it the second time and looking it up, I think that I can like pretty much confirm what I felt. Like the song does have a very like spiritual feeling to it. I had a very spiritual feeling, and I just kind of didn't really appreciate how it didn't have like a climax or like any dramatic building moments. Because when you listen to like church music made by like Kirk Franklin or like somebody, is that his name?
Yeah.
Kirk Franklin. Like that music gets you jumping. Like even if you're not like religious, like you can't deny like that's some good stuff right there. So this song, it didn't really evoke any emotions from me. Even knowing the meaning, I was like, that's cool, but I don't really.
yeah.
It almost didn't feel passionate.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like they didn't
Yeah.
put enough like emotion in it for me.
Yeah, the primary emotion that I felt is like calming and kind of like slowness and boredom, and it's not really something that gets you passionate about like.
Sorry.
So it's just kind of, you know, it's more of a subdued elegance to it. It's not an active sort of
What do you mean by subdued?
a subdued like it's not something that's, you know, actively on your ears. It's something that you could, you know, play in the background, and it's just not meant to really be catchy or be in the forefront of your thought. It's meant to sort of, you know, be there and you know, it's kind of like background music. And that's how I felt. Like it's sort of like calming, and it made me feel sort of like happy and neutral.
So it wasn't cultivating. That's what it is. It wasn't catching.
No, it wasn't. It was more. It was more like cold. It was more like it was kind of like more airy.
You don't think that's personal bias?
Yeah, it is personal bias. Someone could definitely find meaning and catchiness from it, but me personally, I can't find any like. It doesn't get me energized. It gets me more like.
It's rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
Like R&B vibe.
Yeah, I can agree with you and like you saying that's not as passionate, but I also think that's what the composer wanted us to feel like. I think he wanted it to be very static and just neutral and calm.
Yeah, it doesn't have any rhythm to it.
Plus, in the time that he wrote it, it was a long time ago. So
That's-
probably it
Yeah.
felt more hyped up, or maybe the people felt it more in those times when the music. Because now there's a lot of different types of music.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point.
Yeah.
I feel like at that time, I think this piece was like 1700s, if I had to guess.
I think it was.
It was like
I think it was.
1700s, 1600s.
Yeah, 1723.
1723. Okay.
That's when it was first played, I think.
Okay, 1716 says.
I think during that time.
Okay, 17.
I think during that time, Germany had a lot of religious immigration, like a lot of Protestants, a lot of Lutherans, a lot of Christians in general, because those are like denominations or branches of Christianity. And I think Bach was a Lutheran. I think. I don't know. You can fact check that. I'm not sure. But I think since Bach had such a Christian background, especially growing up, and he had like a dark past. Like I remember, like a couple years ago, I researched a little bit of Bach for like a project, and like he suffered a lot of eye illnesses, so he had to get surgery. He had half of like 20 children died because of childbirth. His first wife died, I think. So
That's crazy.
yeah, like in 2 marriages.
They had a lot of kids back in the
So
day.
yeah, 10
Yeah.
kids each parent. That's like a lot of baby making.
Okay.
Yeah, so having that kind of Christian background, I feel like that's where he got his inspiration
Oh,
from.
I think
Yeah.
like it has a bit of a nature feel to it. Like it like back in those days. Now that I think about it, in the 1700s there wasn't as much machinery as there is now. Like the life was not fast like it is now. It's more like slow. It's more like, you know. And I think Bach like drew inspiration from nature and going forward from life's challenges, because life in those times was shorter because like they didn't have enough medicine, but it also like it was more quiet in some ways because you didn't have so much communication and you can be alone more often. And I think the like very unrhythmic nature, like there's a melody in this, but it's not a very jumpy melody. So I think Bach intended for it to put the listener in the state of mind of like being grateful, you know, because like he endured so much hardship that, you know, taking a moment of peace and quiet, like it was in the chorus, like in the choir and in the oboe, like there's a lot of skill needed for the oboe to play continuously, and I think like that put me in a very kind of like relaxed mood.
Can you elaborate on the correlation of nature? Not to discredit it.
Yeah. Nature, because it's not a very indoorsy field. Like the oboe, it kind of like sounds like a bird. You know, it's sort of like word painting. It gave me sort of word painting vibes. Because
Well, I
like,
mean, word painting is a thing in this song, right? Like, even
Yeah,
for
yeah.
one that doesn't understand German, you can be like, yeah. Like, it's definitely like, because I think in German they said Jesus a lot, right? In the song. And they said, there's a German word, I'm not sure, but it's for sorrow, right? And when they said sorrow, the pitch would kind of go deeper and short.
yeah.
And since it's a religious song, they'd be like, yeah, sorrow, like humans ourselves, we don't want to feel sorrow. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why that was short. But then
Yeah.
when they said Jesus, like in the song, it would kind of go slower but deeper.
Yeah, they can longer.
Yeah. Agree.
All right. Well,
Everyone should give their final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like pretty much said the same thing for every single listen. I feel like just the third listen just kind of like concluded my final thoughts on how it was just steady and like
Yeah.
overall just peaceful, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I agree. I would say honestly, like I've said everything that I thought, like in the 3 listens that I've had, and I think the last time I listened to it, like how Jackson said, it just like finalized everything that I was thinking, especially after researching it and like listening to it 3 times. Like it definitely just finalized my thoughts of the peaceful, angelic vibe that I was getting from it. So yeah.
I would say like kind of, I mean like everything that we said, and I've said, like I still like kind of stand by that, but like the only new thing that I've probably like taken from this conversation is like with you guys mentioning this over, like them being able to like continuously play it. I think that it kind of showcases like Jesus throughout their lives and how it's so constant, like it's so constant, and I think that was just an intentional thing. I don't know, I just want to mention that.
That's a good point. I didn't think about
Yes.
that.
You said, oh sorry.
no, you're good. You can go.
You said inspiration mainly from nature, right?
Yeah, because of the oboe and its eeriness and the piece's general like free flowing vibe.
Yeah, I'd like to, not to discredit anything you're saying, but I'd like to disagree a little bit on that. I think
go on.
a lot of what he was inspired from, he had a friend of his, I don't remember his name, but in the song, obviously there's not words in Bach music, right? But in the video, they're speaking German, and the German that's in that video is from a German poet friend of his. So I think, and the fact that that poem was edited by Bach himself definitely gave him at least a little bit of inspiration, if not all, for how he made that music. So I do get the nature, like nature-esque vibe, because obviously oboe was in the piece we listened to like a couple weeks ago about Peter and the Wolf.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very nature, and I do think there was an oboe in that, but I think oboe can mean a lot of things. So.
Yeah.
Well, my final thoughts are that I thought the song was kind of boring, but I can agree with what Martin said. Like, it was a really long time ago, and they didn't have the same, like, I guess, concept of music that we do now. Like, now nobody probably listens to Bach or whatever. I mean, maybe they do, but it's not a very, like, brought up or, like, popular thing. So I can appreciate that maybe that's what they liked back then, but now I just feel like it's not really, like, we don't really appreciate it.
Yeah, like
they
it's
did.
not relatable.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cultural bias there, I feel like.
I agree.
It's a persuasion of mine, however you call it. I think when I was researching it, there was a 1900 or 1890s poem that translated this version of the thing to nowadays, so like the 20th century. And it definitely takes apart the more deeper meaning of what Bach wrote. I think his name is Robert Bridges. He basically converted German into English, and in German, it's a lot different than it is in English. Like, if you were to translate German to English and then have someone else from America or England be like, yeah, translate the same thing, you're not going to get the same lyrics, right? And I feel like that's up to nowadays, especially like we don't listen to the same music, we don't like the same stuff. Back then, everything was slower. I feel like now, 21st century vibes, we kind of got more fast-paced, more pop, more rock. Deformation of some sorts, like they kind of took something classic and kind of changed it to something else. Like Robert Bridges, his version of the poem for 1900s to 1890s, he basically wrote that humans should kind of deviate away from Christianity and kind of focus on themselves, whereas Bach and his friend kind of focused more on how you can devote your life to Christianity. So it's two different views, and I think cultural and personal biases definitely play a lot into what you guys are saying, how you guys view music,
Yeah.
and how you guys like music.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm Protestant, and my personal bias is that the church that I go to uses more like contemporary pop music and like more like fast paced. And this is a change of pace, but like also my mom used this like I remember my mom like playing this classical kind of music in my childhood, so it is kind of like more familiar to me. And I think that's what contributed to like the sleepy vibe, because like when I was a kid, this was the bedtime music. I think this music was like kind of like in night settings, like they would play this music, you know.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.